Hey guys, I want to thank you for getting online and making sure that you got all of your work done. I was really impressed with some of the answers and wanted to make sure that I gave you an answer key. Very brief video on the answers. So, question number one, a lot of you actually talked about how you noticed China being what stood out to you the most on this graph. I didn't know if maybe some of you, after I looked at the answers, might have said that the US track and the Italy track were very similar. Um, some of you were also noticing that these lines were really close together. So all these countries are very similar as opposed to these other three. On question two, when was it published? March 14th, which was 4 days ago. So, of course, things have changed since then. Why is it considered a reliable source? And it's because it's a university. It's not a magazine, but it is a university is one of the most reliable sources. The lines for Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan are different from the rest because of these strict quarantines. So they were able to kind of minimize the number of people who were infected because of their quarantines. Look at the y-axis. They've purposely presented this graph in a way that I would not want you to do. Mathematically, it's incorrect. And most of you talked about the word intervals. That's what I was looking for, the word intervals. Like here, this is a difference of 300, and this same gap is now worth 3,000, and a smaller gap is worth 5,000. So typically we want those gaps to be all the same, as my later graph now shows. This is 1,000, this is 1,000, this is another 1,000, and this is 1,000. Now you can actually see those cases, and they make this curve that we do call exponential. It's an exponential curve. When something starts slowly and then increases at a rapid rate. I was hoping that you kind of would understand exponential growth just from these patterns, because you guys are really good at patterns. This one multiplies by 2. This one multiplies by 3. That's how those numbers were changing. In question 7, you could have had a variety of correct answers. A lot of people actually chose increasing by 5, so multiplying by 5 would be what a lot of people did. Now, this first number can really be anything. The first number can be any number. But what has to happen is, as you move from one number to the next, you see the same times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. The pattern of numbers is multiplying. And the next 3 questions were asking you to find how many cases. So you had to multiply the numbers in this one. And in this one, for 10 days, you actually had to multiply that 1.25. You had to say 1.25 10 times and then multiply by the original amount. Maybe this reminds you a little bit of our compound interest. And if you are doing this on the phone, if you turn the phone, you actually can do an exponent and then multiply by 178. But these were our numbers. And this was interesting. This is with a quarantine, and this is with no quarantine. So a difference of 180,000 people, 180,000 cases are getting alleviated because we're putting on this quarantine. So quarantine is a place of isolation. It's important so viruses and other contagious diseases cannot spread. And that's why we're not having school right now, because we don't want this to happen within our community. We want to minimize this growth, and we want to make this growth actually maybe minimize, and maybe we can make it like this, or maybe even lower. Now, it will still remain exponential just because that's the way typically viruses are. They are not linear. So right here, the very last thing we're going to talk about was this question 4, the difference between those exponential growth and linear growth. What we've been talking about until this point was something that added +5, +5, +5, +5, +5. But now exponential times 5 times 5 times 5. So we're going to do a little bit more with exponential today and get to know that a little bit more. But great job so far. I hope you guys are finding things to do. Miss y'all. Bye.